The piggy infection is a complicated subject to explain. What began as a desperate sip of a so-called cure has since twisted into a nightmare where even the smallest scratch from the infected seals your fate. But after the Delirium chapter released, a new mystery and theory has risen. A theory about the infected monsters and how they see the world. Unlike the others, this video is much shorter but still extremely interesting, because I want to look into some mysteries of the game, theorize how the infected survivors see the world, and why they act the way they do. And to do this, we first have to rewatch the DK and Delirium ending cutscenes. Something that always left me wondering was Bunny seeing Mari. Bunny first saw Mari in some alleys as an infected monster. She saw her red glowing eyes, but the only problem was that Mari wasn't actually the infected one. Bunny was. While Bunny was turning infected, she saw Mari, a survivor like many others, an infected monster. And that's not all, because in the Delirium ending, Bunny once again sees Sheepy, her old best friend that has been infected for a long time, a survivor. Bunny sees herself and Sheepy as survivors, while in reality they were both infected monsters wandering around the forest. And now the question is, why and how? Many people have speculated that this is all of Theo's doings, but I can prove you wrong. First of all, Theo was not responsible for all the hallucinations and memories that Bunny had. Everything that Bunny saw was simply because of the fact that Bunny was sick with an illness called delirium. An illness that makes you confused, unaware, hallucinate, and see things that aren't actually there. So Theo is definitely not the answer to the question. But what about the delirium itself? Could Bunny have saw infected monsters as survivors and vice versa, because of the illness that made her see things that don't actually exist? Well, that is a good theory, until we also take a look at what has happened at the Piggy residence, where another infected, Penny Piggy, has saw us, knocked us down, but still carried us into the residence, and to be more specific, to a room with beds, as if she somehow wanted to help us. And that shows how delirium also had nothing to do with Bunny seeing survivors as infected. So then, what is it? Well, here comes the theory. Infected monsters see survivors as infected creatures, while they see themselves and other infected bodies as survivors. That does sound a bit crazy, but hear me out. Right after Bunny got infected and we entered her point of view, we will see Mari, which is a survivor, as an infected monster. We then see the delirium illness do its job too, because Henry turns into a hallucination of her own sisters, and later on, we can see Sheepy, which has been an infected for a very long time by now, as a survivor, but once again, only from Bunny's perspective, because in reality, both of them were already infected. Them talking while they're infected is probably Bunny's delirium illness continuing to weaken her. But that also means that these two quote-unquote infected monsters that we see in Delirium's ending were never actually infected monsters. They might have just been survivors trying to kill Bunny because she was the infected one. This theory can be proven even more when you look at the fact that infected monsters are actually friendly and never aggressive to each other. And that's because they see each other as survivors, but they see the actual survivors as the real threat. They know that they are actually the infected ones, but their mind tells them otherwise. They see the survivors as the enemy, a threat that they need to take down, and we know this thanks to a note from the school chapter. This might also be one of the reasons to why the infected don't attack robots. Even if they are aggressive towards them, the infected brain cannot understand the AI, they cannot turn AI into infected, so they have no reason to attack it. With all of this, however, I don't believe that the infected from the first DK chapter were actually survivors. There were simply too many of them for them to actually be survivors. There's even a note from a person that was hiding in a room down there, saying that she can hear the many infected behind the locked door. And you can't say the infected with guns were survivors either, because we saw many other creatures using guns, such as Torture, Delta, and even Bunny herself. I believe that Bunny got infected right after she escaped from the underground metro stations, and that's where everything started. I believe that all the infected see other infected as survivors, while they see the living survivors as infected monsters that they need to take down. This itself is a crazy theory, so I'm curious to hear what do you all think about it. So leave a comment down below sharing your theories about all of this, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.